Today we're having a look at After Hours, artwork by State of Ohio Employees 2021. This exhibition was juried by Ken Emerick, and we're very pleased to have artwork by 44 people from across the state that work for the state of Ohio. This exhibition really encapsulates the idea that each of us has deep-rooted creativity that balances us out. These are all state workers that have phenomenal talents that they bring to the fore after hours.
I'm Ken Emerick, this year's juror for the Ohio Arts Council's Riffe Gallery After Hours exhibition. The exhibition is comprised of works by State of Ohio employees and represents their creative endeavors beyond the workplace. The piece to my right is by artist Jennifer WHITTEN. Jennifer is from Cleveland. She is with the Department of Corrections as a clinical counselor. She's a multimedia artist working in assemblage and found object, stitching and beadwork. So I love the idea of the found object. I think that in this case the trowel is something that we've all had experience with, but then taking it to this other kind of level of embellishing it with this beading, these buttons, it becomes bejeweled and very special object. The beadwork on these two wall pieces I think are just phenomenal. For me, the snake references Ohio, the Serpent Mound, kind of that history, and the housing kind of icons I think are also very attractive. But once again, if you can see here in the background, we have the snake. So I'm really interested in that motif. Up close, you'll be amazed at the detail and the patterning that she's achieving, but it is all hand beaded, and then it is sewn into these very elaborate patterns. These two paintings are by artist Brandon DOUP. Brandon's from Butler and is with the Department of Developmental Disabilities. The thing I really liked about both these works is that Brandon is exploring memory. The piece here to my left is entitled 2016 to 2018 View from My Cubicle. It's an image made of symbols that are important to Brandon, including this house shape. The house shape is an important icon in Brandon's work and references his constant moves as a child and an adult. In the painting here, 1985, Me and Gigi, it's the artist's first attempt to capturing memories in the portrait form. This piece actually really drew me, and it was one of the pieces at the very beginning of the review that stayed with me until the end. Individually, I'm very interested in the idea of the found photo. And I think Brandon did a wonderful job of taking what was probably in anybody's photo collection of a young child and a dog and creating this sort of memory painting that we all can relate to. So these are paintings by artist Kay NEES. Kay is from Columbus, and she is with the Department of Health. I was drawn to these gouache paintings because of their intimacy, and also I just love them as a trio. They really relate back and forth to each other. Again, I think our qualifications were artists could apply with 3 works. And in this case, once I began investigating further into the pieces and realized how intimate and small they were, I thought they really needed to be shown together. A fascinating thing about this work is Kay took all of these images on her iPhone and used that as her reference. So you do have that kind of format or shape of the iPhone shape, which I think is pretty wonderful. I was also really attracted to the idea that this is evening or night. Most of our landscapes typically are created during the daytime. She was looking at the night sky, and you have the moon peeking through these trees, and in here it's that moment of dusk where there's no more sun, but we're just about to that point of evening, and I think she did a great job capturing that with the shadowing of the tree and that sort of misty, cloudy sky. So these are paintings by artist Michael Bush. Michael is from Columbus and is employed by OPRS Retirement. I was immediately drawn to these pieces. I had mentioned earlier that I was into figurative and narrative, but I also really love work that deals with color. And Michael is one of the best examples in this exhibition of using color and this sort of dynamic forms that he is creating. So these pieces really appealed to me because there is this common theme of this sort of swirling mass, which is also in the smaller. I also appreciate the fact that he can work in this sort of more intimate scale and this grand scale, and they both have that sort of same commanding presence. I also, the other thing that really drew to me in these paintings is the idea of that sort of micro-macro. In this case, it was the idea of organic and or cosmic. Are we looking at this sort of organic biology type image, or is it actually outer space? The images are really open to interpretation, and I really appreciated that about the work. He's very successful in drawing the viewer in. In my case, they have this sort of floating. The feeling I get when I look at these paintings is that I actually fall into them. They're just lush. As you get to the surface, you're seeing layer and layer of color. As you approach, like, there's this wonderful use of red here. So you're always discovering work within the painting, or discovering new things when you're looking at the painting. The smaller one with the white background, it really draws you to the object. And once you get close to that object, again, you're in this sort of cosmic, you're almost falling into this void that he's created with this organic sort of roundish shape. So one wonderful thing that happened when I was going through the initial entry process was I saw that there are a number of applicants that were fiber-based, either quilting, weaving, beading, which I thought was pretty exciting for this show. But it also kind of reflects the idea of artwork that is created in the home. It follows the fine art craft movement, but even the idea of making functional items. In this case, TERESA WITT created this incredibly beautiful quilt. This is one of the pieces that immediately I saw, the very first time I saw it, I knew it would be in the show, just because of its dynamic color use, the patterning. I just knew it would look beautiful in this gallery. TERESA is from Reynoldsburg and works at the Department of Mental Health. She's having a talk here at the Riffe Gallery on Thursday, June 3rd. She's been quilting for about 5 years, and this quilt is entitled One Block Wonder. It's an original design by the artist, and she did not follow a pattern. It was constructed using only one fabric plus a background. And TERESA did encourage us to touch the work. All of her quilts are meant to be used, to be handled. And so I'd like to take a moment and show you the back of the beginnings of how this wonderful piece began. So it was a solid piece of this fabric that then became cut into 6 identical layers that are aligned exactly and then cut into 6 identical triangles. So there's a lot of geometric cutting and splicing together. The triangles are then stitched into hexagrams, and then you'll see the final result of this sort of kaleidoscope shape from that simple flower pattern, which is definitely referenced with some of these larger flowers that remain, but then also kind of split off into these wonderful crystal-like shapes around it. So we had many photographers that also applied to the exhibition, and the work ranged everything from, again, sort of this documentary type photography to beautiful landscapes and some abstraction. It was difficult to jury the photography aspect down, but this is one of the artists that really kind of drew my attention. Again, all 3 pieces I thought were important to keep and to be shown together because they really create an atmosphere. This artist is DOMINIKA, JURKOVIC. She's traveled extensively, and a lot of her photography are from those travels. But here's another example that I found in the statement, that because of COVID, she found that her art practice really changed. because of the limitations of travel, etc. So she's continued to stay busy with her photography by looking inwardly at her central Ohio, Columbus area. So all of these are from 2 different parks that she visited that were agricultural based. One was Smeck Farm and the other was 22 Acres Farm. And she's capturing, again, just that moment of dusk where we're dealing with these beautiful Ohio skies, in this case, this beautiful sunflower field. Very, very Ohio standard images, but very beautiful, a very light touch to the photographs. And again, I just really love the relationship that she's created between these 3 images. These engaging portraits are created through a 13-step layering acrylic paint process, which is used until the portraits emerge. Beth's paintings are primarily female portraits and are the representation of her muse. The paintings drew me in because of really their dynamic use of color. When I, again, went to her statement and read about this 13-layer painting process, I was really intrigued. So when I came to the gallery to see the show once it was hung, I began to really see this sort of depth that she's created by the use of this constant layering, this translucent use of color, bringing it out to finally getting this wonderful portrait. This painting is by artist Steve NASSANO. Steve is from Cincinnati and is with the Department of Corrections. This depicts one of the bridges in Cincinnati. It has a wonderful painterly quality to it. The surface is incredibly rich and lush. So I was immediately drawn. He had actually submitted two paintings of bridges and then this sort of riverside, kind of that Cincinnati view of the Ohio River, which I thought all 3 were beautiful, but I was really drawn to this work. I was really pleased later when I was beginning to go through the statements to have Steve in the show. I think his statement is really core to what this exhibition really is about, and I'd like to share that with you. Steve wrote, "I paint oil paintings to relax. My job as a correction officer at a level 3 prison is stressful." It really cuts to the core of why so many makers make. It's a way to use art to diffuse the everyday, to take that energy, in his case, which I would think is very stressful, and to put it into a work of art and just make something incredibly productive and beautiful out of it. So these 2 portraits are by artist Rochelle Snow, who's from Columbus and works for the Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections. These 2 paintings are from her series Penny Fro, and the dynamic portraits really command attention. The use of pennies for the hair not only provides texture and color to the pieces, but also creates a rich, reflective quality that draws the viewer into the portraits. As I was here in the gallery looking at the show for the first time, I not only noticed her ability to do this wonderful layering of the pennies, but actually if you begin to look at them, she is creating shading using different patinaed pennies, beginning with the darker here and branching forward or coming out into this brilliant, shiny mass. So wonderful use of found materials with this sort of painterly portraits that she's created. I'm really pleased to talk about this work by ERIN Higgins, who's from Columbus and with the Department of Medicaid. This piece made me smile. It's just whimsical, it's a lighthearted, beautiful piece of work. You can definitely feel the artist or the maker's hand in this ceramic piece. ERIN talks about in her statement that she was inspired by her grandmother's elephant collection. So she began taking ceramic classes at the Cultural Arts Center here in Columbus. One thing I knew from working at the Ohio Arts Council is we are incredibly fortunate as a state to have so many wonderful cultural arts centers and arts councils throughout the state that provide access to studios, to classes in different mediums, etc. The wonderful thing I think this exhibition accomplishes is that we represent so many state agencies within this room, this gallery. I really wanted to look at diversity of types of work, materials that are used. Later, when I was really getting down to looking at statements and that, I really wanted this spread throughout the entire state. I mean, I think the kind of wonderful quality of this exhibition is it celebrates both. And the way this show has been installed is not on any kind of hierarchy. It really is work speaking to other work. So you can have somebody that is relatively new to making, hanging right next to somebody that's very, very experienced. And what happens, I think, is the work talks back and forth to each other, and it just sort of informs each other and informs the audience.